Hey, how's it going, folks? My name is Josh. Welcome back to another toy review, and today we're here to take a look at the Bandai movie monster series Godzilla 1954. So of course, yeah, with today being the 70th anniversary of Godzilla, I mean, it only makes sense that we review this particular figure from the movie monster series lineup because, personally, if you ask me, this is like the essentials of collecting Godzilla figures in general. So without a doubt, I mean, I'm really excited to finally take a look at this. I mean, it's been a review that I've been hyping up for a while as well. And obviously this, specific toy line, of course being made by Bandai, it's, slightly different from like my Ultraman reviews. While some of those figures do look accurate to their screen counterparts, obviously, not all the time. But obviously with this lineup, with the movie monster series, this one in particular for sure, I mean, this is like, again, the best and essential way of collecting these things, despite them only really being available in Japan. I'll explain a little bit more about that towards the end of the video, or at least as we tag along. So of course, yeah, but as always, before I review the figure, I need to talk about the history, obviously. I mean, not everybody knows about the original Godzilla 100% because the character has changed so much throughout the years, and there's a lot of different versions and incarnations of Godzilla. Obviously, it only makes sense. Why not talk about the one that started it all? I mean, this character, at least to an extent at the time, was like a symbol for like nuclear war and like bombings, because obviously that's how Godzilla was born in the film. He got hit by a hydrogen bomb, not intentionally. Obviously during the beginning of the movie, we witnessed like the bombings happening, and little did we know that, well, a big giant lizard creature would come around the shores, and we all know pretty much what happens next. It's pretty easy to explain, but the movie itself was, of course, a very dark and gritty, how do I say this? I don't want to say sci-fi, but the 1950s was very big on that aspect of filming. You had like a lot of crazy movies like World of Worlds, and even the ones after like The Blob and all that. And of course, who could forget classics like Them and The Black Scorpion? There's a lot of crazy ones. And then of course, you got the awful ones like The Giant Claw and all. But of course, there was something about Godzilla that was a little bit more on the real side because, of course, obviously, Japan, unfortunately, was kind of known for, of course, getting hit with nuclear bombs. And yeah, I don't need to explain that part of the history, but you get the idea. Obviously, with Godzilla, when he got hit with the hydrogen bombs, basically the way that it goes is that he was just nothing more but just like a simple creature, sleeping underneath like the bottom of the ocean. And when he got hit, he basically mutated into like this giant, like, how do I even describe it? Obviously, as you look by the design, sure, it might look a little bit silly, for most people, but obviously as you kind of get the idea, as harsh as this might sound, from what I've heard from, a couple of forums and archives, they say that the design initially, it was supposed to kind of represent like a Hiroshima bomb victim. I mean, I'm not exactly 100% sure on that. I know that that was also one of the common criticisms with the character's design itself, because obviously, as you can tell, the figure also captures that perfectly with the very, like, the roughness and the bumpiness of the skin. And of course, obviously, he's supposed to have like pretty rock hard skin for sure, especially since in the film you get like, the army trying to take him down. Obviously, Godzilla is like an unstoppable force of nature. That's what he does. He causes havoc and chaos. So it only makes sense for sure. Although it's not because he likes it, obviously. He's not like some sort of like goofy supervillain or whatever most people would interpret him as. But obviously, he's of course a victim because he himself is a man-made creature. He was created because, well, it was basically our fault. So yeah, that's kind of the sort of the main ideas behind the character itself. So while I kind of go over that, let's talk a little bit like with the figure itself. So just like with the Ultra series figures, they do come with like a neat little tag here. As you can see, it says Godzilla 1954. Of course, let me just reiterate, Godzilla is technically the correct way of saying it, while Godzilla is like sort of the more common, simple way of saying his name. Just so I kind of get, point that out there. As you can see, this is a really nice picture of him holding a jet. And as the bottom here, it says 2019 because that was the year that this figure got released. Although, just a reminder, these figures, they do have a tendency to get re-released from time to time. So the year, the date might change a little bit. So just thought I kind of let you guys know just in case, because, these figures, they do get re-released from time to time. The movie Monster series line it's pretty old. I think maybe they started back in like 2000 or 2001. Not exactly too sure, but they've been around for a pretty long time. Obviously, like I say, these figures, they're from Japan, so they're not very easy to find, here in the US. They do release them here from time to time. I know not too long ago with the new, with the Godzilla and Kong New Empire film. I know that they did release a couple of them in some select stores like Barnes & Noble and FYE, but, like I say, you're better off finding these online. I got this guy from Amazon. So yeah, as we look at the back of the tag here, we just got the simple name Godzilla. That's basically what it means in Japan. And of course, we got the logo for the movie Monster series. Very nice, as you can tell here by the tag. It's supposed to like match up his fins, like the design pretty much. Because some of the tags, they do kind of vary a little bit. They have like that nice little picture, and then they kind of show off like what film he's from, and unfortunately everything else I don't really know what it says because I don't speak Japanese, but you get the idea, so kind of similar to the Ultra figures, but not exactly, same format, but different toy line, so of course we took a look at that. And of course, this is a very fantastic picture for sure. I mean, then again, that this is what you're pretty much going to get depiction wise, because of course it's a black and white film. It's very old, so it definitely 100% adds on to the darkness and grittiness of the film, because a lot of people don't realize it, but the first Godzilla movie was technically a horror film. So of course, let's take a quick little look at his design. So of course we kind of zoom into the character's face a little bit. So obviously, it's hard to really say for sure what he's supposed to be exactly. I know he's supposed to be like some sort of lost species of dinosaurs, or at least some kind of lizard. So whatever the case is, obviously, he does have like a sort of like dinosaur like archetype, if that makes sense. You could kind of get the idea with his formatting, with how he looks. So you can see all the nice details, with the legs and the arms. Obviously, the way that these movies are made, it's a guy in a suit. So there's definitely a lot of details here and there that definitely kind of puts that into perspective, especially in the chest area. I love how it's just kind of pushed down there. But that's definitely a creative choice for sure. I mean, I wonder like, what was the thought process of it? And you do see that a lot, even like underneath. I don't mean to put the brightness up so high. I just really wanted to focus a little bit on like even with the lining and stuff, like the wrinkles, which is very nice. And then of course, the texturing, is unique with the bumpiness of the skin. Even when you kind of look at it very closely and zoom in, it's like you're finding every crack and crevice possible, and it is very, very neat. And I love how it's expanded throughout the entire figure. And of course, we got the fins here, which you could definitely see like where the detailing kind of differentiates a little bit with like the texture, the bumpiness, and then of course you got the it's not smooth, obviously. I mean, it's smooth somewhat, but with like a little bit of like that weird, it gives me like a like stones or like rocks like kind of vibe, if that makes sense. Not exactly sure if I really said that correctly, but you get the idea. He does look rather nice with that. And of course they're somewhat of a bright white. It kind of brightens up a little bit around here, and then of course obviously it kind of darkens here. Definitely like a sort of like a milky gray, like around like on his spine or so when you kind of look around here. Of course, it looks very unique. Obviously, with this being the first Godzilla, or should I say Generation 1 Godzilla, obviously the fins, they're going to differentiate a lot throughout the franchise, and that's perfectly fine. And of course, we got the tail. Let's talk a little bit about his face, because I'm surprised that I've noticed this now. Well, I'm not going to talk about his expression. I just want to mention how you'll notice that even with the ears too, you'll notice that one, you could kind of see it a little bit more here, while on this one, it looks a little bit more smaller or chopped up. I'm assuming that's probably because of just the suit design. I don't think they did that because, they were rushing this figure out or whatever. Maybe they didn't get the design right. No, I could say this without a doubt, 100%. this is definitely screen accurate. So that is, of course, perfect. And of course, we got the little snout. Godzilla has always had a very weird and unique design, especially in his first film. Like I said, the first movie was meant to be a horror film at best, so he looks horrifying to an extent. There was a couple of times in the movie where he does look a little bit odd, but that's only because they were using props and stuff. But I can say for sure, 100%, this figure is supposed to be based off of just the suit alone, and not all those other weird props and all that, because Bandai actually did made figures based off of those other stuff, you know, like the props and like even the sketches and all that. Heck, he was even supposed to be an octopus at one point. Like, I'm not joking. If you look into like the history of how they were making the film, it's insane. And of course, we all know that Haruo Nakajima, he was the guy that played Godzilla, you know, rest in peace. So that, of course, is a lot of effort, especially for like a design like this, you know. And you can see like how even the arms too. I don't even remember him like bending his arms too much at all. I know that with the suit, it was like very hard to maneuver. You can feel it in this figure too. Like he has like such a normal stance. Like he looks normal. You know, but at the same time, I mean, he looks so cool. I mean, again, yeah, this is supposed to be, you know, Generation 1 Godzilla and all, but still. So of course, detailing and all, and I even forgot to mention like the lines too here, like how nice that is, you know. Definitely gives it like a sort of like reptile like feel to it, so that's great. So let's go over the paint, which it's a little, how do I say this, the paint's a little bit hard to describe, only because like I say, this is, you know, at best a black and white movie, so obviously whatever he was supposed to be before, it's really hard to kind of say what he, you know, what color he is. I know that to an extent he was supposed to be a little bit brown, but obviously the only reason why I point that out, it's because the figure is mostly a gray plastic with the occasional white. As you can see, like even like on his forehead, you got a little bit of that whiteness going on. I don't know if it's because they're, you know, if they, not exactly sure like if that's like lighting or if that's like a, you know, like a artistic choice. You know, obviously for the back, you know, with his fins, it makes sense because he's supposed to power up his fire breath. And I know what you're thinking, Josh, it's his atomic breath, not his fire breath. You're not a real Godzilla fan. But remember, this was the first movie, so this was way before the actual name of his ability was initiated, you know, because even in the film, it just looks like he's shooting out like pure radiation or just fog. Not kidding. I mean, it's horrifying what he could do, just melting and destroying everything, you know. Everything gets caught on fire is all I can say for sure. So it's not hard to see why they call it fire breath, but you get the point, you know. But what I want to say about the colors though, it's hard to tell with my crappy camera, but you could tell like by his teeth. It looks like a yellowish, like whitish color, which is odd because like I said, everything else is like in black and white, you know. I mean, even the nails too, like his toenails, even on his fingernails, they're not painted at all, which is fine. I can forgive that. But the thing with the teeth though, it is, I don't know how to feel about it. I mean, I'm not upset, I'm not annoyed. I just think that it's odd because obviously, you know, for the most part, you know, if this is supposed to be straight from the film, I mean, obviously, you would assume that his teeth would just be like completely white like his fins and the parts of his head is, but it's like a different color, so I don't know how to feel about that. I won't take away points for that, obviously. I've seen weirder examples of this type of paint from like other companies and all, so I'm not gonna put it out towards poor Godzilla, so I'm not even gonna go there because everything else is just fantastic for sure. I mean, even the eyes too is you know, they're okay. I mean, again, it's hard to really say. It looks like he's trying to stare straight, but you can very obviously tell that he's a little bit cross-eyed. That's always been sort of a weird thing with the character. It's hard to say exactly for sure what he's supposed to be looking at. So you know, I won't count that too much as a mistake because at least from the side view, it does look really cool. It looks great, you know, with how he's depicted and all. I guess another negative thing, unfortunately, you know, I'm gonna have to point out with the, you know, paint apps is that the color of like the dorsal fins, they're not painted all the way. They stop like right here, and then from that point on, that's about it. You just get like one color, like a dark gray for his tail. Yeah, and that, I guess that's a little bit of a bummer to an extent. It would have been nice to kind of see it completely painted because, you know, Sometimes they do paint it on certain figures. I know that with the 2019 Godzilla figure, you know, from Godzilla King of the Monsters, his is slightly more painted. So just to kind of set out an example, because there's going to be a lot of them where the bottom half of the tail is not painted all the way. So I thought I'd just kind of note that in case you want to pick up this figure. So of course, let's go over the articulation. So with how this toy line functions, these figures are obviously not very articulated. They're very reminiscent of like the Ultraman figures that I've reviewed in the past. You know, they have very basic movements. This figure has about 4 points of articulation. He can move at the arms, you know, the legs. They could, well, it's possible. You can make them go full 360, although not exactly, and I wouldn't really recommend it too much. It's not going to break the figure, obviously, because the material is a much more softer plastic. I can literally squeeze him and, you know, it'd be okay. And there's no damage or anything either if you do that. So I think the quality for sure is a lot more better than the Ultraman figures, only because those figures would just get flat out warped. But don't get me wrong, these figures do tend to get a little bit warped from time to time if you put them near like heaters or if you package them wrong when you're shipping them to someone. Amazon. Yeah, you get the idea. And in case you're wondering, unfortunately, no, the tail does not move, which that is a bit of a bummer. Because it makes it look like that you can, but trust me, you can't. It will not allow you. This part got glued in for sure when they were making it, so I'm not surprised that was the case. So unfortunately, you can't move that, but it's okay, you know. I mean, you still get some. You could get him into some pretty cool poses still, kind of. And you know, I mean, at most he stands up, but that's about it. That's kind of the range of like, you know, like the articulation wise you can really get. I mean, you can make him like destroy buildings with his tail. You can make him like, you know, I don't know, make him do stupid shit like that. I don't know. Of course, obviously, you know, the least he can do is, you know, reenact when he shoots his like fire breath or his atomic breath or whatever. You know, that's the least he can do posing wise. But that's about it really. But like I say, that's pretty much how the toy line is. I don't want to compare it to other toy lines. I really don't want to do this, but obviously, you know, with like McFarlane Toys, with his DC Multiverse or his Spawn figures, how they have like a very specific amount of articulation with their figures, so they don't really pose as much as people might want them to. But obviously, and of course, he does, you know, make statues from time to time, or like statue figures or whatever he calls them, where they move a little bit in some areas, but in most of them they don't. I don't know. That's kind of what to expect with this toy line, but a little bit more limited. So, you know, obviously it's all about presentation and the picture of like how he looks in the film itself. So obviously, you know, sacrificing the articulation in this situation, I think it's reasonable, you know. But don't get me wrong, there's definitely going to be more figures in the future that do have more points of articulation. So of course, as we gear towards the end of the video, let's take a look at some of his other counterparts, because why not, you know? I might as well, since, you know, I would definitely like to review more Movie Monster Series figures. So let's take a look at 1968 Godzilla. So as you can see, Generation 2, man. And just to kind of clarify, well, spoiler alert, I guess. Yes, the original Godzilla dies, but literally in the next film later, we're introduced to another one, simply called Second Generation Godzilla. I won't get too much into that. Obviously, I just want to, you know, kind of go over at least sort of the sizing and all that, because they do change a lot. As you can see, like how massive he is. This is actually my very first Movie Monster Series figure I have ever owned. Kind of. I actually got a bootleg first, and then I got this one. So that's a story for another day. But just to kind of get you an idea as to what to expect from the toy line, you can even see like the fins, how they're all the way painted except for like a little bit of the tip, but it does sort of like a fade. So definitely for sure we'll take a look at this in the future. Awesome figure, but this one's awesome too, don't get me wrong. You know, I forgot to mention the head doesn't move. Just thought I kind of mentioned that, because some of them, they do have heads that move, some of them don't, you know, just thought I kind of point that out there. And of course, let's compare him to 1954 Godzilla. Well, I won't go into it now. Yes, it's supposed to be the same Godzilla. Let's just say same idea, same company, but one's released in Japan when one was released in the US. Okay, that's all I'm gonna have to say for now. We'll definitely review this some other time, get a little bit more. Maybe I might review this one next. Maybe. I don't know yet. Depends on how well this video does. So, of course, let's do a couple of more comparisons since we're already past 20 minutes, but I don't care. This figure is great. Like, I'm having a lot of fun with it. Ultraman. And yeah, actually, that looks about right, actually, you know. And since they're from the same company, of course, it matches up beautifully how they look. I mean, it looks, you know. And you know what the sad thing is, though? When they wear the suits, obviously, even that's accurate, too. Because most of the time when the, you know, like, even like Nakajima, I can only imagine the hell he must have gone through wearing this. Technically, when they act out, that's kind of like how tall they are almost in a sense. So he literally has to like look through like 2 tiny little peepholes just to kind of see. And even then they would give him instructions from like how to move and all that, but still. So wow, this figure is like a lot more accurate than I thought. Like for sure, I'm just gonna say it right now, this is an easy 10 for me. Like this is a magnificent figure to have, and I love that it only gets better from here. Okay, so I guess 2019 Godzilla. Oh god, again, yeah. I mean, no, it seems about right. Yeah, it kind of towers him over. Of course, this one still has his little tag intact. Can't wait to go over this figure. Honestly, yeah, we'll keep it simple from there. Yeah, that's about it, really. You know, of course, yeah. Like I said, it's an easy 10 out of 10 for me because like I said, you know, it definitely matches how the character looks perfectly. You know, it looks solid sizing wise, you know, it's accurate, you know, it's not too big, it's not too small. Paint, um, depends on, I don't know. It's a preference thing, you know. The paint job is not bad at all. I mean, obviously, for a you know character from a black and white film, obviously, you know, he kind of he gets a pass. He gets an excuse for that, you know. Future figures, not so much. I know recently, like I think it was either this year or last year, they did made a 1955 Godzilla figure, which I want to get that so bad. Somewhat similar. Obviously, the design of that one is a little bit more on the crummy side. The only difference is that that one actually does stand up a little bit more straighter than this one. But you know, pick your poison. You know, you either want to get them all or only get like specific ones. You know, but definitely for sure, every Godzilla fan needs to have this the first Godzilla for sure. You have to. I mean, come on, like why not? You know. So yeah, that's about it. You know, I guess wow, it's a mostly positive review for sure. So of course, you know, if you're a big fan of this, I mean, you can very easily go on Amazon and get him for a decent price. He's not that expensive, surprisingly. Unlike some figures I know from the toy line, I'm talking about you, 1971 Hedorah. Oh man, I would want that. I mean, I got the Millennium version, but I want the OG version so bad. And that just shows you how much you guys need to get this figure for sure if you're a Godzilla fan. Yeah, so that's about it for now. Thank you guys for tuning in into this toy review. I know this one's a very long one, but of course I wanted to make this one as nice and special as I can. You know, not just to show my passion for the character itself, but also because, you know, just to kind of give some respect too, since 70 years, that's a long time. I mean, come on, that's like generations, so much stuff to kind of go around with it. I mean, it's a lot. It's like a journey and a half. So yeah, let me wrap this up for now, I guess. So until then, thank you guys for watching. Leave a like and subscribe and hit that notification so you can check out my future videos. We do a lot of weird random stuff on this channel, so why not? Go take a look. So until then, see you guys next time. Peace.